Rio had reached his limit. The weight of failure, rejection, and endless setbacks had become unbearable. His dreams felt like sand slipping through his fingers, no matter how tightly he held on. He had tried everything, pushing harder, working longer, refusing to back down. Yet, life kept throwing obstacles in his way, laughing at his efforts. His business had collapsed. His closest relationships were strained. His spirit was exhausted. One evening, unable to bear the turmoil any longer, he wandered to the riverbank outside his village. It had always been his refuge, a quiet place to escape to when the world was too loud. But tonight, he wasn't searching for peace. He was searching for answers. He sat on a rock staring at the rushing current, his mind a battlefield of doubt and frustration. "Why does life have to be so difficult?" he muttered to himself. "Why is it that everything I do is met with so much resistance and obstruction?" As he sat and watched the flow of the river, it was as if the river had heard him, and in response, it offered him a lesson. A thick tree trunk had fallen into the water, blocking part of the stream. Rio expected the water to fight against it, to rage and battle for space, but it didn't. The current simply adjusted, moving around the obstruction as if it were never there. Not once did the river stop. Not once did it resist. It simply flowed. He watched, transfixed. All his life he had been told that obstacles were meant to be crushed, and that success was about force, persistence, and breaking through walls. Yet, this river wasn't breaking anything. It was adapting, and in doing so, it never lost momentum. His mind raced. What if I've been doing it all wrong? For years, he had been trying to force doors open that were never meant for him. He had been clinging to relationships that no longer nurtured him, holding on to paths that led nowhere, insisting that his way must be the only way. But life wasn't a stone wall to break through. It was a river to move with. He sat there for hours, watching the water dance around every branch, every rock, every obstacle, never once stopping, never once giving up. By the time he returned home, he wasn't burdened with the same desperation. His problems hadn't disappeared, but his perspective had shifted. Instead of forcing what no longer worked, he began to adapt. Instead of resisting change, he embraced it. Instead of seeing obstacles as barriers, he saw them as redirections. And just like the river, he never stopped moving. What if the obstacle in your life isn't stopping you, but guiding you? What if, instead of fighting against the current, you allowed yourself to flow with it? True strength isn't about breaking through every wall. Sometimes it's about finding another way. If this message resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And if you've ever faced an obstacle that forced you to change course, tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear your story.